Hey everyone, Marcus Webb here. Welcome back to The Hidden Impact. Right now, as you watch this, diplomats are sitting in air-conditioned rooms drafting peace agreements for Ukraine. They're choosing words carefully, negotiating clauses, debating security guarantees. But here's what they're not telling you. While they write those documents, Russia is launching over 700 missiles and drones in single nights. People are dying during peace talks. Cities are going dark while ceasefire terms are being discussed. And the most terrifying part? This pattern is deliberate. This isn't chaos, it's strategy. And it means the deal everyone is hoping for might already be dead before the ink even dries. If you want to understand what's really happening behind the headlines, you're in the right place. But before we expose this, smash that like button. It helps the algorithm push this critical analysis to people who need to see it. If you're new here, hit subscribe and ring that notification bell, because we're uncovering the hidden impacts behind global events that mainstream media won't touch. Drop a comment below with your thoughts. I read every single one, and your perspective matters in this conversation. All right, let's pull back the curtain. December 2025. While American, Ukrainian, and European diplomats gather in climate-controlled conference rooms discussing peace terms, the sky over Kiev illuminates with a different reality. Over 500 drones and 40 Russian missiles cross the border in a single night. The irony is brutal. At the exact moment the world talks about ceasefire, Moscow launches one of its largest attacks in months. 2 people dead, dozens injured. Power cut for hundreds of thousands. This is the story of how peace negotiations can coexist with total war, and why this paradox may mean the deal was dead on arrival. There's a pattern here that cannot be ignored. This is no coincidence. December 27th, the eve of the Trump-Zelenskyy meeting in Florida. Russia launches a massive attack with hypersonic Kinzhal missiles. December 6th, during substantive talks with American envoys. Russia attacks with 704 drones and missiles, the largest assault in weeks. January 9, 2026, days after Europeans agreed on post-war security guarantees. Russia uses, for the second time, the Oreshnik ballistic missile, capable of carrying nuclear warheads. Ben Aris, editor of BNE IntelliNews, sums it up. It's traditional in negotiations. Whenever these meetings happen, there's an escalated attack. The goal is to apply pressure, but this isn't just negotiation tactics. It's a strategic statement. Russia is communicating something fundamental. While they talk about peace, they believe they'll win by force. And the numbers on the ground support this confidence. November 2025, Russia captures approximately 505 square kilometers of territory, nearly double October's gains. Full year 2025, 6,460 square kilometers taken, according to Russian Army Chief Valery Gerasimov. Cities like Pokrovsk are surrounded. Mirnohrad and Huliai-Pol have fallen. Russia controls nearly all of Luhansk and most coastal areas down to Kherson. Putin isn't negotiating from a position of weakness. He's dictating terms. So what does each side actually want? Putin demands recognition of all occupied territory as Russian, including regions he doesn't even fully control. He wants Ukraine to accept Crimea as Russian, permanent prohibition from joining NATO, severe limitation of Ukrainian armed forces, and lifting of all sanctions. In June 2025, Putin went even further. Russians and Ukrainians are one people. All of Ukraine is ours. This isn't negotiation. It's annexation with paperwork. Zelenskyy demands complete withdrawal of Russian troops, return of prisoners and kidnapped children, prosecution of Russian leaders for war crimes, and robust security guarantees against future aggression. Zelenskyy has been clear. He won't cede territories currently controlled by Ukraine. He won't recognize Russian annexations. And here's the mathematical problem. These positions don't overlap. There's no geographic middle ground between everything and nothing. The Trump administration presented a 20-point plan that, according to Zelenskyy, incorporates almost 90% of Ukrainian demands. But Putin hasn't fully embraced the plan either. He praised Trump's efforts, but said some parts are unacceptable to Moscow. And there are three critical unresolved points. First, security, guarantees. Who provides them? How are they enforced? What happens if they're violated? Second, the fate of territories Russia claims but doesn't fully control. Third, the Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant, occupied by Russia, but on territory neither side wants to cede. Discussion documents mention a joint access format between the US, Ukraine, and Russia. But details remain vague. While diplomats discuss ceasefire lines, Russia is waging another war, a war against the cold. Since September 2024, Moscow has dramatically increased the use of Shahed drones, from 200 launches per week to over 1,000 in March 2025. The target? Energy infrastructure. January 2026, half of Kyiv's apartment blocks were left without heating after the attacks. 320,000 homes without electricity. Ukraine today has only 1/3 of its pre-war electricity generation capacity. This isn't collateral damage. This is deliberate. The strategy is called algorithmic attrition warfare, continuous attacks designed to break civilian will, force concessions, make life unbearable. It's considered a war crime under international law, but it continues. Researchers at the Center for Strategic and International Studies documented 11,466 Russian missiles launched against Ukraine between September 2022 and 2024. Ukraine's interception rate is impressive, 83.5% daily. But here's Russia's grim calculation. Even with that rate, 16.5% still get through. And when you launch 700 weapons in one night, 16.5% means over 100 impacts. Volume defeats defense, and Russia has volume. Ukraine has resilience, but resilience has physical limits. Trump's presidency has added another layer of complexity. Trump has publicly pushed for a deal, any deal. He's threatened tariffs and sanctions against Russia if Putin doesn't negotiate. But he's also said, "I'm not looking to hurt Russia. I've always had a very good relationship with President Putin." This ambiguity creates strategic uncertainty. In January 2026, France took the lead in providing military intelligence to Ukraine, supplying 2/3 of all international intelligence, according to President Macron. Why? Because the U.S. temporarily paused intelligence sharing in March 2025, a decision quickly reversed, but one that signaled fragility in American commitment. European leaders are now discussing something unthinkable 2 years ago: deploying troops to Ukraine as part of post-peace security guarantees. The Kremlin has already said categorically, no NATO soldiers on Ukrainian soil, ever. This isn't a negotiable point for Putin. It's a red line painted with permanent ink. At the December Brussels summit, Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk was blunt: either money today or blood tomorrow. The EU promised massive funds for 2026, but Zelenskyy warned, if Ukraine doesn't receive the money in spring, the scale of drone production will decrease severely. This isn't just about the front line. This is about the capacity to fight. Let's be analytical about why this deal may not work. Structural incompatibility number 1. Putin sees territory as non-negotiable. Zelenskyy cannot survive politically by ceding land. 76% of Ukrainians consider recognizing occupied territories as unacceptable, according to a December poll. Structural incompatibility number 2. Russia continues advancing militarily. Why stop when you're gaining ground? Structural incompatibility number 3. There's no reliable enforcement mechanism. Who guarantees Russia will respect any agreement? The 1994 Budapest Memorandum Security guarantees didn't prevent the annexation of Crimea in 2014. Dmitry Medvedev, vice chairman of Russia's Security Council, was crystal clear in June. The talks are not for striking a compromise peace on someone else's delusional terms, but for ensuring our swift victory and the complete destruction of the regime. When one side talks about complete destruction while the other demands territorial integrity, there's no possible agreement zone. And so we return to the initial paradox. While diplomats talk, missiles fall. While 20-point documents are being drafted, Russia launches the Oreshnik, a missile Putin says has destructive power comparable to nuclear weapons, even with a conventional warhead. The message is clear: we can negotiate, but we'll win either way. History teaches us that wars end in two ways: with decisive victory or with mutual exhaustion. Russia hasn't achieved decisive victory yet. Ukraine hasn't reached total exhaustion. What we have then are negotiations happening not because there's real will for peace, but because there's diplomatic pressure to appear willing to negotiate. It's possible we're witnessing not peace, but the prelude to the next phase. Because when missiles fall during peace talks, only one thing is certain: someone isn't really talking about peace. For the hidden impact, this has been the analysis of how diplomacy and destruction coexist in Ukraine. The hidden impacts aren't always in what's said in negotiation rooms, but in what's launched from the skies while the world watches. If this analysis opened your eyes to something you hadn't considered before, do me a favor: share this video with someone who needs to see it. The mainstream narrative often misses these nuances, and that's exactly why we do what we do here. Hit that like button if you appreciate the depth we bring, subscribe if you haven't already, and let me know in the comments: do you think this peace deal has any chance of succeeding, or is it theater? I'm Marcus Webb, and I'll see you in the next deep dive. Stay curious, stay informed.